productivity increases, health insurance increases, and salary pool funds. Henceforth, I will only highlight those cost increases that are unique to individual institutions. Okay, now as an overview for East Tennessee State, about 29% of its funding comes from appropriations. About 57% of it comes from tuition and fees. Most recently, tuition and fees at increases at ETSU were mostly spent for salary and benefit adjustments. As far as positions for ETSU, administrative positions, little over 2%, professional, 30% of the total, faculty, 39% of the total, support positions, 28% of the total. ETSU is recommended to get $11.4 million in capital maintenance funds, and ETSU has almost $80 million on hand in reserve to support future capital projects and renovations.
Senator CROWE.
Yes, how much? What was the administration cost?
Administrative was almost 3% of the total. And that's just for ETSU. Now for the ETSU medical programs. 52% of their appropriations, or 52% of their funding is from appropriations, 22% is from tuition fees. Administrative dollars, or administrative positions for the UT medical units, almost 2% administrative, 25% professional, 40% faculty, support positions 33%. Now the medical education units at ETSU is getting an additional cost increase of $1.8 million, particularly for addressing inflationary costs at those unique units. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I wanted to point out for ETSU.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davis. Dr. Nolan, thank you for coming back with us for 2 weeks in a row. We appreciate your patience with us, and welcome to the Senate Education Committee, and you're recognized for a 3-minute budget review.
Chairman Kelsey, Vice Chairman Lundberg, Senator AKBARI, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to speak to the budget at East Tennessee State University. On behalf of our faculty, staff, and our Board of Trustees, we thank you for the historic support that you provided both to our institution as well as higher education as a whole. Our university traces its roots to the Normal School Law of 1909, which created 3 institutions in the grand divisions of the state to train teachers for the improvement of the living conditions in their region. And from that day forward, our institution's mission has been focused on improving the quality of life for the people of our region. And that impact is significant and pronounced. More than 80% of the individuals with a baccalaureate degree in the immediate area around campus were educated here. More than 75% of all the healthcare practitioners in our broad region received their degrees from East Tennessee State University. If we look at our enrollment this fall, right at 14,000 students, down year over year. Our freshman class this fall, 1,651, down year over year. But the composition of the class remains constant. The bulk of our students are first generation, Pell eligible, and from rural communities. In the midst of a pandemic, we were able to keep our focus on student success. Once again, thank this chamber for its focus on outcomes. We realized record graduation rates, record retention rates, and a record number of students walked across the stage, either physically or virtually in 2020, receiving their degree. 2020 was a year unlike any other. It was a year of resilience. And I think it's important today that we recognize the resilience of Tennesseans all across our state, because on this day a year ago, violent tornadoes moved through our state, damaging communities in Nashville and through Cookeville. In fact, the home that we brought our son back to after he was born was damaged, and the United Methodist Church in the East End, where we went to church, was significantly damaged. But our campuses have been resilient. Our campuses and our families have been resilient. Our faculty have pivoted to online. They've moved through new technologies, As campuses, we've invested in PPE and elements that kept our students safe. We at the institution realized the challenges facing families. We did not increase tuition and fees. We put efficiencies in place, cutting our budgets more than 5% at the administrative level, 4% in the academic units. As we look at the budget for the upcoming year, we thank this body for its support of the THEC outcomes recommendation, for the deferred maintenance recommendation. We're hopeful that the General Assembly will examine the THEC process for new capital projects and support that process, which is based on a competitive scoring methodology. ETSU had a project that was on that list. As we look forward to the year to come, we realize that we must continue to stay focused on efficiencies, on affordability, and on outcome. Our students are struggling. This has been a difficult year financially, and you see that in the use of our students in things such as our Bucky's Food Pantry, where we've seen a 30% increase in students with food insecurities turning to that for support. Sir, I recognize my time has concluded. I'd be happy to address any questions from you or the members of the committee. And once again, sir, thank you for all that you do to support higher education across the great state of Tennessee.
Thank you, Dr. Nolan. Questions? Senator Lundberg.
Thank you. President Nolan, good to see you. Sorry we didn't get a chance to connect yesterday. I know you're not mine, but I consider you mine because you're so close by. Do you know what today is, in addition to marking a year from the tornado?
If my memory's correct, I may fail this, sir, but I think it's National Anthem Day. I don't know if that's where you were going.
That's right.
President Nolan, you get extra credit, sir, for that.
A plus.
It is ironically National Anthem Day, celebrated on this day, and commemorates the day that the United States adopted the Star-Spangled Banner. And President Nolan, you know where I'm going. We do have a picture that I would like to pull up. President Nolan, you have seen this. It has caused lots of discussion, not only around ETSU, but frankly, around a lot of East Tennessee and across the state, as you know. And Mr. President, I'm going to ask you some very direct questions. And you can see that picture before you. Question one, do you believe this action is representative of ETSU?
Sir, as I look at the actions that our students take to speak out against social injustice across the country, I think what you're seeing here are students who are making their voices heard. As you look across our institution, we have a diversity of students, a diversity of perspectives, and a diversity of opinion. I realize that many in our region are extremely hurt by this image. I do not feel that our students meant any disrespect to veterans, to the flag, or to our country. And I deeply regret the pain and angst that has been evidenced across our region over the past couple of weeks.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I hope you'll give me some latitude to continue the line of questioning I've got. Still, that question is, do you believe this is representative of ETSU? And I will separate this. Let's separate it for a moment, because you're right, as far as the students go. Let's talk for a moment about Coach Shea, who's there. Is this representative of ETSU's sports program and basketball team, which Coach Shea represents, sir?
I think if you look at the institution as a whole, more than 2,600 employees, if you were to examine the actions of employees today at our downtown day center, which provided care for homeless veterans, at our physicians practice plans, which provided medical care for veterans across our community, in our ROTC program, which is one of the strongest ROTC programs in the state.
Not to cut you off, Mr.
Those
President.
actions that
I appreciate that, and I understand where you're going, and I support ROTC. I was honored enough, in fact, during my Navy career to come down and swear in some young men and women. Would have liked to have been in the Navy, but they swore into the Army. Nonetheless, though, did Coach Shea act in a manner that you, sir, believe is representative of ETSU and our region?
Sir, I think that the actions of our faculty, of our physicians, and of the individuals that I described are reflective of the actions of this institution. I cannot speak for Coach Shea's actions on the day in which this picture was taken.
Okay. You know, in November, I've got a paper here. In November, Coach Shea and his team discussed kneeling and decided as a team to kneel, and President Noland was made aware of that decision in November. Is that true, sir?
Sir, I was made aware in November that the team had discussed with Coach Shea their desire to speak out against social injustice across the country. At that point in time, sir, we were preparing for what would have been away games. Games were being canceled left and right. We then played multiple basketball games without an incident. And at that focus in time, sir, we were squarely centered on COVID and the health and safety of our student athletes.
Okay, so you knew about that.
That
You knew 4
picture
months ago this
reference
was.
did not occur until February.
Okay, so you knew that 4 months ago this was going to take place. And although you say that was no disrespect to the flag by those students, I wonder why you would take that action at that time. It's obviously important. We've all been on college campuses. We've all been to college, or most of us have. Understand that opportunity to stand up and fight for what you believe in, wholeheartedly believe in that, but that 2.5 minutes is an interesting time to take that action. And your response to that, sir?
Sir, I know that in advance of our home basketball game, which was the final game of the year on Saturday, the team displayed a video on the board in which they shared that members of their family serve and that they meant no disrespect to their family members or other members of the ETSU family by the actions that were taken in Chattanooga. In hindsight, I would have done some things differently. I would have ensured that we had spoken with the students in detail, provided opportunity for our students to meet with veterans, provided the opportunity for our students to dialogue and have conversations about issues that were on their minds. And I'm committed to having those conversations moving forward.
If those students decided to take another form of protest, and candidly, they decided to give the flag the bird, is that acceptable to you?
No, sir.
I've got to tell you, and there are several of us, and in fact, I'm sitting next to Senator CROWE who wore the uniform. And frankly, sir, in my mind, putting that knee down gave the bird to our flag, sir, and I don't see a difference. Tell me what that difference is.
Sir, I deeply regret the feelings of pain and animosity that have emerged across the region. As our players said in their own words on Saturday, they did not intend to disrespect those who had served or the flag. I recognize the pain that this has caused, and as a university, we are committed to bringing people together to heal the issues that have emerged and to rebuild relationships that have been damaged.
Again, sir, what's the difference?
Sir, I understand your perspective.
One last, if I may. Amongst legislators who have shown concern about this, Coach Shea has gone on their, I don't know if it's their Facebook page or their Twitter account, and liked those posts who have taken aim at those. Do you endorse and support that as well? I was just curious because a representative showed me some likes of his page that were done by Coach Shea. Good move on your coach's part, sir?
So I was unaware of those actions at the point in time which they occurred. I was made aware of them at a later date. I have spoken with our athletic director and am confident that he will address that matter with Coach Shea.
My last one, Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee, for giving me this opportunity. President Nolan, I think the world of you.
Thank you.
I think you have brought amazing guidance to ETSU. This, sir, worries me. I would like to sit down with you and a couple members of your faculty or staff or students, not a large group, but I would like to sit around because, sir, again, I do not see a difference between kneeling for that flag and holding up a finger to that flag in my mind. And frankly, not just people who wear the uniform, but I think a lot of people in East Tennessee, it's the exact same action, it's the exact same sentiment, and you cannot separate it, sir. And I understand that right to protest, and I support it. But there's a 2.5-minute gap, and you yourself said you wouldn't stand for somebody putting that bird up to the flag. And that's what we've got to address, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Lundberg. Senator CROWE.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think as we sometimes all can, I think the university it lost its way in this. It lost its perspective because I know for many years, I guess, I don't know how long the universities have been doing it, but as long as I can remember, it has been the policy of our university, and I would suspect of all the universities in our system, to honor the flag at every game. Why else would we do that if that's not our policy? That's the university's policy. That's the university saying we honor this. You know, we expect. Why would you play it and then see all the fans stand at attention with their hand over their heart if you didn't expect that to be an honor that the university would provide for each athletic event? I think, and obviously the students, I guess in essence you could say, violated that policy. But I think I think the issue needs to be it needs to be separated somehow, and coaches need to be teachers, and I think sometimes our coaches tend to want to follow and join instead of teach, and I think they need to remember that their job is to teach these young men and women. And in this case, the value of the anthem and the flag, and I know they have dreams, but I think about the dreams of the young men that I left in Vietnam, and that my uncle Dewey died over Kiska Island in a P-38 fighting the Japanese, and you think of all those dreams that were left home and never came back to produce the lives that they could have produced. But I think my bottom line on this is you can fight for social justice, which is what these young men were trying to do, but you can stand for your flag. You can fight for social justice, but stand for your flag. And I think they need to be taught that those two things can be done together in the right way, in the right time, in the right place. I like what our soccer team did after all this commotion, all this shock that really our community has gone through. They wanted to support the basketball players, but they did it, from what I could see, in the right way. They stood for the anthem, and then when they got on the field, they knelt for a few seconds and played ball. And I heard Senator Lundberg say at one point, I would join them on the field, but not as they stood to. And they may not. I truly don't think they meant to disrespect the flag, but that's exactly what they did when they did that. So I think we can fight for social justice and stand for the flag and make all that work. I just think we need to have our coaches in our athletic department need to understand that these young men, part of our job is to teach these young men, and I think the universities, not just ours, the universities have lost sight in a way of why we're able to lead the lives we lead, and why we were able to, those young men are able to lead the lives they lead. They're not out mowing lawns to go to school. They're getting scholarships and they're getting all the help they could ever hope to get to go to school, because those that went before them and that represent that flag. When I see the star, that first star on our flag, I think of my dad, who flew 31 missions over Europe, and he would not have made it back. He would not have made it back if it weren't. He flew a B-24. If it weren't for the Tuskegee Airmen, those black pilots that protected that protected his life and the life of his crew. And so this really isn't a black thing. It's not a black-white thing. It's just a patriotic thing. It's something that our kids need to learn. And I'm like Senator Lundberg. I love Brian. I think he's a great president. But we just need to get right back on the right path, all of us.
Thank you, Senator CROWE. Further testimony. Senator AKBARI.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, President Nolan, for being here. I was in third grade the first time I was called the N-word, okay? I was an elected official when I was asked whose car I was driving. So being the victim of racial injustice is devastating. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have. It doesn't matter how well educated you are. It doesn't matter what elected position you have. You still have to wonder when certain things are said to you. Like a lobbyist up here told me I was a credit to my people after he spoke to me. You cannot tell people who have been the victims of racial injustice how they get to protest and how they get to feel and what they get to do. This has nothing to do with being patriotic. When Colin Kaepernick first decided to take a knee, he spoke to a veteran, and the veteran told him, it's actually disrespectful for you to sit down when they play the anthem and when they do the pledge. You're showing respect by kneeling and also protesting your concern. These young people are athletes. We haven't walked in their shoes. We don't know how they feel, what they've had to deal with. And for us to make this an issue that comes to the highest levels of state government in a budget presentation, no less, it's so disheartening. I think that we all want a world where people are judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in right now. No matter what we do, no matter what we say, we have not yet got to that point. We have not crossed that finish line. We have not climbed that mountain yet. And these young men, in a peaceful way, and these young women, if they did it as well, in a peaceful way, protested and said, this is not right. And I am standing in solidarity with those who have been victims of racial injustice. People like George Floyd, who pled for his life while an officer kneeled on his neck. People like Ahmaud Arbery, who was chased down and shot while he was going for a run in his neighborhood. People like Breonna Taylor, who was asleep in her bed when officers entered her residence and there was a shooting that occurred. I'm not anti-law enforcement. I am not anti-veteran. My uncle served. My cousin served. I have great friends who are law enforcement, and I mean dear friends that I love like sisters. That is not what this is about. I have great respect for those who sacrifice their all so that we might be and live free and exercise the First Amendment, which is what these young men did. And so I stand with them. I hope one day that there will be no situation that we'll need to kneel over. But right now, that's just not the case. And for me as a woman of color, who has had to, my mother was born in a segregated hospital, okay? So the days of Jim Crow are not that far behind us. And she is barely 60. She won't like that I told her age, but she's barely 60. So we've got a ways to go. And I think if athletes want to use their platform to say, hey, I stand in solidarity, I'm not rioting, I'm not burning anything down, I'm not fighting anyone, then they should be allowed to do that. And so those are my comments on that. Again, it's not about being disrespectful. It's about using a platform to raise awareness at a specific time. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator AKBARI. Anything further? There is no motion on the table. Is there a motion? Senator CROWE moves the budget. It's been seconded by Senator Powers. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, then we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And the ayes have it, and the budget will be sent to the Finance Committee with a favorable outlook.